Today, my featured guest is Justin Breen. He is the founder CEO of the global PR firm BR Epic and exclusive connectivity platform BR Epic Network. His newest book, Epic Life, features a foreword from Dr. Peter Diamandis and has been the #1 overall book for sales on Amazon Kindle. That's a big achievement. It also recently made the Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller list. Now, I've got the pleasure of getting to know Justin for the past 10 minutes or less right here, right now. And I'll tell you, folks, he's a sharp guy. He's right into it, okay? So this is a no-nonsense guy. He wants to get right to the point. He's a high driver personality entrepreneur. So he's just gonna lay out direct to you. So if you have a thin skin, you may want to fast forward. If you're the type of person that says, hey, I want feedback, I want results, this is what I want. There's things that are not working in my business or in my life right now, and I'm ready to take action. At least I think I am. At least I'm open to learning and not being right all the time. I don't want to be right. I want to get it right. If you're that personality, which I am and Justin is, then you're really going to resonate with today's show. If you're not, well, do what you want, right? Continue to see your life not working or your business not working.
See you later. Tune out.
Like literally, right? That's what it comes down to. So I'm just setting you up so that you know what to expect, and I don't need to apologize to you later. Like, you decide if you want to pause, rewind, move forward, skip, you decide. All right, Justin, thank you for being on your first 100K Top 100 podcast in entrepreneurship. Go ahead and just fill in some of the gaps in that intro, would you?
Good intro. Well, one, congrats on marrying a stabilizing human Fallon and then having 2 great kids. That was smart. Smart marrying a homeschooled that was smart. Marrying a homeschooled, stabilized human. I married a pediatrician who was not homeschooled, but raised by 2 stabilizing human parents. And then our sons, who are 8 and 10, are half warmth, empathy, rules like my wife, and then half pure maniac entrepreneur like me. So it's a really interesting ride. And then Laura and Asher, you'll probably see that as they get older as well.
I'm sure I will. Alora's looking like she's the driver, like her daddy. And then Asher is the more empathetic mama's boy right now. So we'll see, because they can change as they develop. But yeah, we're seeing the trajectory right now. So Justin, you have a very interesting focus in business and entrepreneurship right now. You get to interview hard driving, hard charging entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And there's something about their lives. There's a pattern about their personal lives that has come to the surface undeniably. You've seen the evidence. You probably have the statistics. I'd like you to go there with us, kind of position us in the topic where you see our focus should be as entrepreneurs, and what you've seen with the ones you've interviewed, what's working for them, what's not, and how do we change it? How do we actually get results?
Yeah, that's good background. And I never answered your first question, so I will now. I answered your first question with complimenting you on marrying a human, which is a great compliment. Usually people like us marry stabilizing humans. So as very quick background, I was a journalist for 20 years and created an entire first company based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. So I actually don't know what PR firms do. They just annoyed me. And being a journalist or an entrepreneur who happened to be a journalist, you don't get into journalism for employee count, revenue, office space. Like, I don't like business owner stuff. It confuses me. I don't care about it. I never have. That's not why you become a journalist. So for the past almost 6 years now, since started first company with 0 business background, now running 2 that only partner with visionaries. I only talk to visionary entrepreneurs. So no consultants, no business owners, no employee humans. Like, I just don't understand that. And then what my brain does is talking to world's top entrepreneurs, they're usually ideators. So they're like idea. They're ADD diagnosed or undiagnosed. It's not a disorder. Sign of genius is just misdiagnosed by humans. And then my brain simplifies everything into patterns. That's what it does. I don't know why it does that, but that's what it does. So as a journalist, it would simplify everything into a story. As an entrepreneur, it simplifies everything into patterns and stories and then connections. So it's like I hear blah, 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 blah. And like, here's an intro, here's a story, connect. That's what my brain does. Okay, so that's the background. So what entrepreneurs are, entrepreneurs, not business owners, not consultants, not humans, entrepreneurs, visionary global thinkers, most damaged people with best coping skills, most damaged. So what does that mean? I have not talked to one of those people, and that's most of my days talking to those people or spending time with my family, that hasn't overcome at least one of the following four things. Most are two or three, and then higher up on the food chain, it's not usually all four, which is very interesting. So here are the four things that separate entrepreneurs from humans, business owners, consultants, all that, most of society. Four things are bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, two, depression, three, the highest level of anxiety that you can imagine, four, likely and or possible traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. So humans, business owners, consultants, that world, those are excuses. Entrepreneur at the highest level, figure it out. Fuel. So what I've seen, the unfortunate dovetail to that is that many times those coping skills are used to create $1 million revenue, big employee count, large office space, all this stuff. And then many times, not always, but many times, at the expense of anything meaningful. No family, but never see family, multiple divorces. And it's sad because there's no reason to do that. And, I'm just a dad who happens to be an entrepreneur, and it was a great gift being a journalist because you don't get into journalism for any of that other stuff. And so I started with a totally different foundation than most of the people I talked to.
All right, Startup Nation. Did you put your hand up for one or more of those? I know I did.
You're all four, probably. Yeah. So based on your childhood, growing up on welfare, massive trauma, first company, 19 years old, had all this money, women, broken religion. I mean, you're probably in all four, at least three. And that's what it is. And then you realize, oh, wait, I have all this stuff and I have nothing. So I better find a stabilizing human. And now you have a nice family. So so I have 1 to 2 conversations like that every single week, at least.
Startup Nation, I feel naked, emotionally naked on my own show. Justin just sized me up and he's known me for 15 minutes.
Well, that's all I need to know. Because once you know the answer, then you know the answer. So most people cannot handle my directness. They don't. But entrepreneurs at the highest level, they're like, wow, where have you been? I'm like,
we love it.
Okay. Yeah, they love it because, and then, there's strength finders. There's Gallup, Clifton strength finders. I write about this a lot in my second book, but there's 34 of them. I'm dead last in empathy, second to last in includer, 34 in empathy. However, for people like you, endless empathy, endless, because I understand, and you don't make excuses. And then most of the people I talk to in strength finders world, they're high in ideation and or futuristic. So they're off in ideal land. And then they have a mix of activator, maximizer, achiever. So they're off in ideal land, but they'll do something about it now. You're probably one in activator, the way you talk. And you're a high D. So I'm almost dead last in ideation, very low in futuristic, but my top 3 are activate, maximize, achieve. So I talk to all these ideators that are all over the place, and I'm like, no, yes, and then activate, maximize, achieve. That's how my brain works.
So that's really cool, right? You've identified who are the people that you want to partner with or collaborate with.
100%.
Because you have commonalities, but then you have clear differentiators.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. And you need them and they need you. That's
why it works. So, so you understand at a very high level the patterns of things. And I'm endlessly grateful for ideators who will change the world. Again, not business owners, not consultants, not humans, only visionary entrepreneurs, because they're the ones that will actually do it. They'll take action and write the check. And they're incredibly grateful for me because I can keep up with them and follow through. Most of the I was talking to you before this started. The only thing I write down before I meet someone is their name and their Kolbe score. KOLBE. It's not your personality. I don't really care what your personality is. I want to know if you're going to do something. And in 5+ years, almost 6 now, as an entrepreneur, my firm has partnered with one person that I know of under a 7 quick start. That's the third score in Colby. 10 is the highest. So most of the people I talk to, they're very high quick start, boom, 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 and then little to no follow through. So they're all over the place. Again, that's ADD, diagnosed or undiagnosed. And I'm the very, 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 very rare entrepreneur who has high quick start, boom, 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 and high follow through. So say it, do it, say it, do it, hit the gas, pump the brakes, hit the gas, pump the brakes. And that's a lot of fun because people with the high quick start, low follow through, they're the ones that if they don't hire a bunch of people, nothing would ever get done. And then they're like, oh, this person can keep up with me and follow through and actually create action results with activate, maximize, achieve. So that's why it works. It's a very simple pattern. It's just most people don't do the research or understanding of why it's a pattern to begin with.
Makes a lot of sense. What do you look for when you collaborate with someone as far as an idea or a project to get in on? Like, what are your
Tremendous.
hot buttons there?
That's a tremendous question. So there's only two hot. So most of the people I talk to, I guess they would have shiny object or all that.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I'm not. There's only two questions I ask myself every single day. One, did I have a good experience that day with my family? And two, did network grow on a global level? I found that everything else kind of takes care of itself. But again, my brain simplifies everything into patterns. And media only needs two things for a good story, only two. One is a good story, which everyone has. They don't know how to do it, but everyone has it. What they've overcome in life, what inspires you, why you're doing this, challenges, and then who your parents were, a parent or no parent. And then two is a news peg. A news peg is why is it a story now? So, new company, I don't know, you're speaking somewhere, you've written a book. I mean, that's 2 to 3 lines in the story. And so then it's immediately simplifying story into 500 words and then immediately connecting to media, 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 media. And I endlessly love doing that because it's the purpose of my life.
You've been featured in some of the biggest online and offline platforms, media platforms. Has this been your approach? Literally that simple?
I like how your brain thinks. So if you're not a litmus test for the people you serve, then you're a hypocrite. And so the purpose of my life is to be a connecting superhero for every visionary, abundance, investment mindset entrepreneur and share their stories with the world. So not their world, not business owner, not consultant, entrepreneur, the world. And so I am a visionary, abundance, investment mindset entrepreneur sharing my story with the world. So I'm just, if you're not a litmus test for the people you serve, then what's the point? So I'm constantly a media myself, which I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful. And then PR partners, they're constantly media as well because for some reason, you just learn this. Media wants to interview me first, and then they want to interview all the PR partners. So it creates, a book. A book is the key that opens up endless doors. So partner with a lot of folks that write books, and then latest book, I appreciate the intro is, done very well. And Peter Diamandis is one of the top entrepreneurs in the world. He wrote the foreword. So you're just being a litmus test for the people you serve. That's the most important thing.
What's been your biggest head trash that you've had to conquer in order to move forward with confidence and put yourself out there in the media, especially
Oh, no.
being, how you occur personality wise, which could be off putting to many media people?
Not in my world. Yeah.
Okay.
So I ignore that world. That's a good point. So people like us are usually aliens within our own family, community, and vertical. No one understands us except top entrepreneurs on the planet. Now, usually we marry the opposite of that. Thank
Hmm.
God.
Thank
But
God.
right, thank God. Literally, thank God on that one. But um, when I was an entrepreneur who happened to be a journalist for 20 years, I didn't understand what journalists who were journalists were complaining about, and they had no idea what I was writing about. Because as an entrepreneur who happened to be a journalist, I was writing about and connecting cool people changing the world, and now writing about connecting cool people changing the world. There's never been a difference in purpose. And then I think it's a different question for most people than it is for me, and I'll tell you why. Again, in Strength Finders world, a lot of entrepreneurs are very low in self assurance, so imposter syndrome.
That's right.
I'm actually very high in self assurance and significance, so there's no imposter syndrome. So I've always been very direct like this. And it's been an interesting it's been interesting being like that because most people don't understand, but I have found talking like this. I'm 45 now. It took 42 years really for people to understand what I was talking about, the majority of them, and it just so happens the only people that do are top entrepreneurs on the planet. So
So
uh,
there's the rub, if I could jump in.
yeah.
For 42 years, you're climbing your way up to the people that speak your language.
Well, why wouldn't you do that? Most people make excuses. Entrepreneurs at the highest level would never make an excuse. You just keep going. And I'll tell you what that means from a foundational perspective. This is the first chapter in the book. The cream rises to the top, and that's based on something my father said. My father was a great man. He was 61 when I was born. He was born in 1916. He'd be 106 if he was alive now. He died when I was 13. He was a World War II hero, shot down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute, got back in the plane. And he would always say the cream would rise to the top. So he came from nothing, became an attorney in the Nuremberg trials. And so I was raised by someone who had been through everything possible that the highest performing entrepreneur on the planet ever could have gone through. I mean, what he survived in World War II, unfathomable. Um, and so I was raised by someone with that type of wisdom in his final years who was just very grateful to be alive. So I'm very grateful for that. And then when he was in his late 50s, a drunk driver hit him head on. Drunk driver was killed instantly. My dad broke every bone in his body, but survived because you don't make excuses. And then my mom was his nurse. That's how they met. My mom was 27 when I was born. Most of my days talking to people like us, top visionaries. I haven't met one of them with more hustle than my mom ever. She's the ultimate survive and thrive, never makes an excuse. So I'm the product of that. And then my wife, full stabilizing human, thank God. Our first day was the day before, our date was the day before she started medical school. So, I mean, if there's anything like this, it's going through medical school. So I just have been surrounded by people that don't make excuses, and I don't understand people that do.
Let's talk about kids because you
Great. Let's
just
talk about them.
you just segued from your own personal experience as a kid,
Yeah.
being raised by humans that don't make excuses, and because of that, you grew up always being self-assured, never dealing with confidence issues. We're looking at an epidemic of youth that are growing up with the opposite. They have no bleeping idea who they are. They don't even know what gender they are at this point. They have
The
no
ones that
assurance.
the ones that will rise to the top will find a way. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. But we're seeing, as far as the masses go, a big shift there, right?
That's where
Just,
your brain and my differ, and your heart and my differ. I understand that the ones that will make it will make it. They will not make an excuse. And I can say without a doubt, the greatest gift of being an entrepreneur by far, there's not even a close second, is that my sons, again, who are half me and half my wife, thank God, get to see that this world even exists, and then they can do whatever they want with it.
yeah.
That's the greatest gift by far. And the only reason the reason not the only reason, but the main reason I partner with, maybe 0.1% of the population partners with my firm. It's probably less than that percentage, but 1 out of 1,000. They're the ones that actually do something that will change the world. They won't make excuses. So by helping them and partnering with them, I help everyone else. I don't talk to the 999 out of 1,000 because they make excuses, but I will talk and partner with the 1 out of 1,000 that actually helps everyone else. And they're the only ones that understand what I'm talking about anyway.
Startup Nation, I realized that I brought on a guest that may be speaking above us right now for some of us. And we warned you in the beginning he would be direct. It almost seems like he's transcendent with all the BS, all the excuses that most of us
weeds out nonsense, and it attracts people that get it. Yeah. So most people live in nonsense because they make excuses. So that, I mean, it's very simple. Like, you either make an excuse or you take action and make the investment. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So there's a lot of flowery things out there and low ticket offers and all, and that's fine. I just don't live in that world. I just don't want to, because those people take time away from me and my family. And the people that actually take action and make investment, they allow me to spend more time with my family. So it's a very simple formula. It's a very simple pattern.
I agree.
Yeah, right. So you agree. And
Yeah.
if the ones that, the people that in your audience that get it, they'll reach out, and others have probably tuned out by now, but that's okay, because, the ones that tune out are the ones that are always going to tune out. So it's a pointless conversation anyway.
Fair enough. All right. So coming back to kids and raising them.
Yeah.
You've seen all these entrepreneurs, high level guys, girls as well, and they win in business, they crush it, they kill it, they become top in their industries, in their verticals. But at what cost?
Everything.
Everything. What step could they have taken, pattern wise, that could have avoided the human wreckage in their families?
Yep. So talk to me is meaningless without an answer. So I appreciate that question. Chapter 3 of the book is winning the wrong game. And again, how each chapter is written and formulated is because I'm solo in ideation. I talk to ideators, and then maybe one a month is a truly great idea. And then, I'll activate, maximize, achieve that. So one of the folks that I used to talk to before COVID quite regularly, he's kind of gone off the grid, is Jesse Elder. In Colby world, he's a 9 quick start. Again, 10 is the highest. Jesse's a genius. He's full genius. And I was talking to him. I'm like, oh, why do all these entrepreneurs, they lead with revenue and office space and all? And I'm like, they're leading with all this material stuff, and they never talk about their family or anything. He's like, oh, they're just winning the wrong game. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Winning the wrong game. I'll write a chapter about that. And so that's the initial first step whenever I'm asked this question, that anyone in those shoes can ask themselves, what game are they actually winning? Are they winning the wrong game with, all this revenue, and do they actually have anything? Or are they winning the right game, having anything meaningful in their life, spending time with their family? I think it's to timestamp this. I think it's a good day to be, and a good time of day to be doing this interview with the horrible injury. I think it was a heart attack last night in the football game, the 24-year-old on the Buffalo Bills. It's just horrible. And my father died when I was 13. My youngest brother died, drug overdose, when he was 29. And so I was a sports editor for a long time, and I saw a 17-year-old girl in a girls' basketball game collapse exactly the same way that the Buffalo Bills player did. And she was lost her pulse, had CPR done on the basketball court. She's alive now. She's 38 now, so she was 17 when it happened. And I messaged her on Facebook. I'm a journalist, found out where she was, and she messaged me back immediately, because I wrote to her. I'm like, oh, I hope you're, I was thinking about you, because I think about when you see something like that in person, it's very rare, but when you see something, you don't forget it. So I'm like, oh, I think about you and that day a lot. And she's like, oh, and because I wrote a bunch of stories about her when I was a journalist. And her name's Jessica Neese. She's like, oh, I'm doing really well. It's amazing that people still think about me. And she's an elementary school teacher, and she has two children, much like you and I do. And so I think about that stuff, and I just have this foundation of what actually matters. And entrepreneurs, if they're not thinking like that and can recall stories like that, or oh, hey, I haven't seen my family in a long time, or I'm going through this awful divorce, I think that's the first thing that first thing to ask themselves is, are you winning the right game or the wrong game?
Once they admit that they're winning the wrong game, what actions have you seen that actually work for turning it around? Because sometimes the head trash can tell us it's too late. This is all I know. I only know how to win the business game because it's tangible. I can control things. I could see them, touch them, feel them. And dealing with emotions and humans at home, it's intangible. I don't know how to win at home. And I
Well,
think
there's a
that's
reason
why
why.
so many men, they give up right at home and they just let their wife and kids go off the cliff
Yeah.
because they don't know how to actually do it.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why, multiple reasons why. Um, Whenever I write a third book, I'm, in the coming years, one of the chapters will be sheepdogs. Sheepdogs. So one of my other good friends, he's an 8 quick start, full genius, 153 IQ, 140 is genius. That's 1%. So he's 153. Pete Kofod, uh, he's like, oh yeah, entrepreneurs, they're sheepdogs, and most people are sheep. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And sheepdogs. I was, I'm a high fact finder in Colby, so I was looking up sheepdogs, and so sheepdogs only have two primary roles. They keep the sheep in line and they push them forward. So they're looking out in the woods for wolves and danger. And most people are sheep. They just want to talk amongst each other and do whatever that is. And sheepdogs are on their own little planet. There's one sheepdog for every 100 sheep. So the dovetail to that is usually a sheepdog marries a sheep, but they don't know how to talk to the they don't know how to do it because they're not a sheep. So that's the scientific. By the way, Science Daily 2006 did a huge article on sheepdogs, their primary role. So that's why from a scientific, because you're with someone that you can't but what I found is appreciating the stabilizing gift. I'm guessing you appreciate your wife more than anything because she's given you a life in some capacity and two great kids. And with those entrepreneurs, it's actually being able to appreciate what they have as opposed to what they don't have, and appreciating what you can't control as opposed to what you can control. And I think giving up that control is incredibly important and will create more blessings in your life than all this revenue and stuff could actually provide.
I agree. I say,
Well, you're a litmus test for the people you serve.
I really, I get it. I say my wife was the first emotionally healthy girl I ever dated. And
Right.
that's not to downplay any of the girls. It was just the dysfunction in me was attracted to the dysfunction in other girls that had
Right.
traumatic childhoods just like me. And I didn't know it was all happening on a subconscious level. And I was like,
Correct.
why do I keep dating girls I would never marry? Like that was the pattern I was seeing.
Well, I can answer that from a scientific perspective as well. There's most people haven't taken this one. Again, this is chapter 2 of the book, the patterns, but it's a test called PRINT, PRINT. And it's your unconscious motivators, unconscious. So this test brings your unconscious motivators into the conscious world. So most visionaries, most entrepreneurs, not the, again, top entrepreneurs, most of them are 8 3s or 3 8s. I'm an 8 3. So 8 is to be strong and self-reliant. 3 is to succeed and achieve. I'd be shocked if you weren't at least one of those. Strong and self-reliant, succeed and achieve. That sounds like you based on where you come from and where you are. And then my wife, again, she's a pediatrician, so think warmth, empathy, rules, all that. She's a 2-6. 2 is to be needed and appreciated, and 6 is safe and secure. So
Yep.
if that's not your wife, I'd be very
That's
surprised.
my wife.
Right. So I already know the. So then you seek what you need to heal. So you seek what you need to heal. Yeah.
One of the best things that stopped me in my tracks was a statement from a fellow entrepreneur. And he said, Joseph, you know what your problem is with dating all the wrong girls? I'm like, what? He goes, your picker is effed up. Your picker, right? Which is that unconscious motivator that you're describing. And I
Yeah.
had never heard that before. And I was like, what do I do? How do I change it? Because I'm not liking the results, right? I got right to it. And he said, whatever your picker, your unconscious motivator, is telling you to do the exact opposite.
Right. Stop doing that.
Right. And then he said, are there any girls you're currently seeing in your network or anything whatsoever right now that are completely, you find them boring, just plain, ordinary? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's Fallon. And he goes, that's the girl you want to marry.
There you go.
Now go cut off all the rest and give her a shot and look for the wife qualities in her. Find what's right with her. Stop
Right.
looking at what's wrong with her. And it
Right.
was stellar advice. And I did it. And man, I started to see the gold and the diamonds within her. And I
Right.
was like, this is her. This is the girl.
Yeah.
But I was about to cut her out of my life
Right.
because I didn't recognize greatness when I saw it. Isn't
Well,
that
yeah,
amazing?
because you came from complete dysfunction, so you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, I've never talked to you before, but I when you talk to enough, you can replace your name with visionary entrepreneur, and that's the overwhelming majority. I haven't met one that hasn't overcome at least one of those four things. I mean, that's entrepreneur life. Most damaged people, not middle damage, most damage with best coping skills. So highest IQ. You ever done your IQ? You ever done it?
I haven't actually. No.
Okay. So,
It probably. I'm not going to guess it's that high though.
well, you're probably wrong about that. I appreciate you saying that, but you're probably wrong. But, so again, 140 and above is genius. Most of the people I talk to that have taken it, they're, at least 140. I'd say many are over 150. I've talked to many that are over 160. When you start getting that high, there's very little human capacity because you're totally on a different planet. So I am 139, which I'm actually grateful for because it's like a bridge between
Yeah.
and so I'm guessing you're around that, maybe a little higher than that. Because you wouldn't have been able to create multi-million dollar I mean, at 19 starting that would be, if you had the lowest IQ that I've talked to from anyone like that is a 131 that they knew of.
I'm probably a 129 then, because my business partners were really the brains behind it. I was the human capital. I was the guy that went out and trained and brought in the revenue, but I didn't know jack about running the operation, the business, the real estate, the commercial buildings, leases, contracts. I had no schooling whatsoever.
Well, you're high
in that.
quick start in Colby then, and they're more human then. They're more human from the logistical standpoint of it. Most folks that I guess in sales, I mean, I don't really sell anything. I'm just the buyer, the people that I want to hang out with, and then they, make investments in the firms. But most folks I don't even like saying the word sales. They're usually high quick start and lower follow through. So if they don't have a team around them, it's complete, just complete insanity. And then they usually marry. I'm guessing your wife is very low quick start, very high follow through. And my wife is a medium low quick start with really high follow through. So that's usually what happens.
It's a fair assessment. We're speaking with Justin Breen. You can find him at brepicllc.com. By now, at this point in this episode, we've lost 90% of you as far as the content, because listen, this episode is for a very select few of you, or it's just for you. that's listening right now, still listening, and you haven't found your people. You're headed to the top, you're at the top, you're lonely, and
Mm.
you're like, why don't others speak my language? I feel like a Martian on planet Earth,
Alien. Yeah.
an alien. What Justin is bringing to the surface and reminding you of, and he's lived out himself, is that if you keep pushing forward to the top, you're going to find your people. You're going to find others
Right.
just like you. The cream rises to the top. You're the cream, we're the cream, and you got to keep rising. That's the thing.
Right.
The lift, the raise can be very lonely, right? The elevator ride can be very lonely. But once you get to the top floor, to the penthouse suite, there you'll find your people.
Mm.
And I'm looking forward to that myself, Justin, because you're speaking to me, and it's been lonely for the past 10 years. I could definitely say that. And I'm getting
Right.
higher up and higher up and higher up, and I'm seeing glimpses of my people, right? And getting access to some here, few here and there.
Mm.
But man, I just have that hope of like, when does the elevator door open to the penthouse suite?
Oh, I have an answer to
And
that
I
too.
walk into the room and I'm like, whoa, what do you got?
Oh, yeah. Well, talk to me is meaningless. Yeah, so that's what I hear. Blah blah blah. Oh, here's the answer. So I keep making bigger investments to be in smaller rooms, but the people in those rooms are making bigger impacts. So bigger investment, smaller room, bigger impact. That allows me to spend biggest investment in smallest room, which is my family, where I can make the most impact. So
Mm,
the two rooms I'm in now are 25K a year each. I'd easily invest 50K a year each, easily. Because when you write bigger checks, it eliminates people that don't write
mm,
bigger checks. It didn't start out like that. It started out as $250 a year, then it was 500, then it was 2,000, then it was 5,000. At the 10,000 mark, I finally started to find a few, and then now at the 25,000, I mean, I like to be the dumbest person in the room, and then where I can actually learn something. So 25K minimum a year. That's where the aliens really are.
You know, I that's literally been the number I've been sitting with, and considering investing into high level masterminds,
Right.
to be in that room. And I've been hesitant because what if it's not the right room,
No,
right?
that's
Like
the
there's that
difference
inner
between
chatter.
that's the difference between entrepreneurs and everyone else. Yep. I don't do any, there's no inner chatter. There's write the check. Yep.
Write the check. Look at that. All right, Startup Nation. I guess this proves I'm a fast starter. I will be writing that check this year.
Great.
Um, I'm going to ask you straight out for someone else listening right now who's been listening to their inner chatter and holding off on getting into that right room and writing that bigger check. What are the ones you actually recommend? I have a few I'll just share with
Good.
Genius Network.
Yep. That's a good one.
That's a good one. A Reedy Syndicate, Ed Milet's. I'm not sure I'm saying it right.
Ed Milet
Okay.
is a genius.
Okay. Strategic Coach.
Yep. That's the one I spend most of my time in.
Okay. Those are the three I've been sitting with.
Here's strategic coach. There's the mug.
Yep. That's Dan Sullivan, right?
Yeah, Dan is my coach. I'm very confident saying he's the top entrepreneurial coach maybe who's ever lived. I mean, he just
Yeah, I
is.
really liked him, man. And he's a fellow Christian brother, and I've listened to
He's a
some of his
Catholic.
content.
Grew
He's a
up Catholic.
Catholic. He went all in, baby. All right. So thank you
The
for
other
that.
one is Abundance 360. That's Peter Diamandis. He wrote the forward for my book. That's a
Well, you got to give him a shout out then.
well. I mean, I don't care
I
about
get it.
revenue. Most people do, but at the level I'm at, most people, overwhelming majority, are running 10 million to $10 billion companies. So if I'm not in a room like that, I get bored. So
Now, let me ask you a question. Are you equally yoked in revenue in that room?
no.
And
But I
if
don't care about it.
not, doesn't that create anything inside of you as far as like,
No. Why would
how,
it? I
how do
don't care
these guys look at me?
don't care.
Don't care.
No, why would I care? No. I'll tell you exactly how they look at me, because they're like, "Oh, you see your family all the time? I want that." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's." I talk to a lot of all fours in those rooms, and I'm like, "That's a bad idea. I'm not going to do that."
So,
No.
question to you, is it possible to have it all? Or in order to hit that billion mark, for example, there is no way to still have that quality time with your family. Is that the trade-off that they chose, or is there a way that you could keep increasing your revenue to exponentially and still maintain your priorities of your family?
Right. Well, that's literally what each chapter of the book is about. Yeah.
So you do believe that is possible?
Abs- I yes, because the anecdotes in the book are about people that are doing that and have done that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, talk to me. You either do it or you don't. I don't know. The belief is great. I appreciate that, but if you're not actually doing it, then what's the point?
Justin, what have we left out in today's conversation that the man or woman who's still on, that's still listening because they do connect with us? They're one of the few, they're one of the 1%, the elite entrepreneur. What do they need to hear that you believe will move them forward where they are?
Well, my whole life is the room of people that would be the ones listening. So if you're not in that room, then you need to be in it and you do whatever it takes. I mean, you get in a plane without a parachute. I mean, that's what it is. Like you either can do that or you can't. So I just don't understand people that don't do that. It makes no sense to me why you wouldn't want to be at that level. So I'm very grateful for my parents and my wife and children. And without that, then all this other stuff doesn't really mean anything.
I agree completely. It's so many people we just see hit the top and then crash and burn. We see the elite athletes, the celebrities, the elite entrepreneurs, and it's the same booby traps along the
Yeah.
way,
Right.
and they just fall. We see these heroes just fall from greatness one after another, chasing the same
They're winning
rabbit.
the wrong game. Yeah.
They're chasing the same rabbit. And it's like, why is this not in the media? Why is this not in the entrepreneurial space?
Right. That's the
Like,
book. That's the point I read. That's why I wrote it.
so you're changing that.
Well, it's a message I believe in so strongly that, and again, I'm a litmus test for the people I serve. So I'm sharing story with the world. That's the whole, I mean, if you can't do that, then what's the point? So, and that's the right message. I mean, for me, that's the only message. So I believe in it and I will continue to believe in it because I know that that's the right thing to do.
Okay. We're speaking with Justin Breen, and he is a pretty much a badass entrepreneur I'm seeing right here.
Thanks.
But you could tell that you also have a humility about you. You have that directness, but you counter it with a humility, and that's
Thank you.
it's quite attractive, actually.
Thank you.
It's very engaging. I appreciate that, and again, the wrong people won't. So that's
That's
cool.
okay.
That's cool. Yay. All right, Justin, welcome to my favorite part of the show. Welcome
Great.
to the hustle round. I'm going to ask you 10 quick fire questions. You'll have about 3 seconds to answer each. Don't overthink it. It's just for fun. It's like a game show minus the prizes. Are you ready?
Yep.
What is your favorite thing about being an elite entrepreneur?
I see my family.
I see my family. What a great answer. What's your least favorite thing?
I eliminate those things from my life.
Fair enough. I believe we're all struggling with something at any given moment of our life. It's just part of the human condition. What are you currently challenged with right now, either professionally or personally?
This is lightning round.
Yeah, you could throw a little thunder if you want.
I mean, I'm very grateful for everything that I have. And I mean, the right mindset attracts the right network and creates the right opportunity. So I'm constantly working on my gratitude every single day. That doesn't answer your question, but that's where, if anything like that is asked, I always focus on gratitude and the things that I have as opposed to the things that I don't.
Okay, fair enough. What are you most afraid of?
My wife,
Now, afraid of her or afraid of disappointing her or something else?
both. Yeah.
Okay, got it. What did you spend way too much time doing your first year in this business?
Wow. That's a great question. I started first company after job salary was cut in half. I couldn't find a job and with zero business background, incorporated, and then reached out to 5,000 people to find first five clients while I was working full time at half salary.
Hmm.
Uh, so in the first year, um, uh, probably talking to the wrong types of people. I would guess is what I did wrong.
Fair. What secret fear do you have about people?
That's a great question. Um, I have found that we only partner with visionaries who live in abundance and who look at things as investments, not costs. So what I see is people think they're visionaries, they think they live in abundance, but they still look at things as costs, not investments. And that's an annoyance more than a fear that they're still living in cost mindset.
Yeah. What do you wish you had learned sooner in business?
Nothing, because I'm glad I went through all this because I appreciate everything a lot more now.
Yeah, I get that. What's a new habit you're going to create this year?
Well, my whole life is habits and
Mhm.
patterns. So I run 6 days outside, no matter the weather conditions. We live in Chicago, so I've done that for
Yes.
20 years. The first thing I do every day is a grateful journal for my wife. I do a grateful journal on LinkedIn 5 days a week. Name my years. So this year is Networks. Last year was Epic Life. That's the name of the book. So I mean, a new pattern. You know what? Every night I ask my wife, or try to ask her, what her three wins for the day were, to keep her needed and appreciated and make her feel safe and secure. So I will continue to do that as best as I can.
Does your wife partially get annoyed when you ask her those questions like mine does because she
Yes.
doesn't actually get why I'm asking?
Yes, because we married humans that are full of emotion and joy, and for us that is a checkbox. We have to check that off the list because we're not really human, more robotic. There's a book that Dan Sullivan just wrote. Again, Dan's my coach. I'm grateful for that. I think the title of the book was "You Are Not a Computer," and I actually do feel like many times I am a computer because I look at people as numbers, like their Colby score. And my wife's like, "You can't identify people by their numbers." I'm like, "Well, that's how I look at people." So my wife. That's why I do a grateful journal. This is not lightning round, but that's why I do a grateful journal for her every single day, the first thing, because without her, I mean, terrible situation, and she's made me a human in some capacity, but not really human. And so she looks at me like, I'll give you a perfect example. This is the worst lightning round answer you've ever gotten, but this is how my brain works. So Private Wealth Magazine, they're for high net worth, you know they're the top magazine. They're way bigger than Forbes. So they keep doing articles on, my firm and companies. I'm very thankful for that. The first big one they did was early last year. That's a very big deal. They have like 2,000 subscribers, and I think the average revenue per subscriber is 8 figures. So it's like, okay, great. So I'm like, oh, look at my wife's name is Sarah with an H. She's like, oh, I'm like, look at this article. This is great. And she's like, you got to go outside. Go look outside. I go, what's wrong? She goes, the dog's eating a squirrel. One of our dogs is eating a squirrel. I'm like, oh, so that's it. I mean, I know you can relate to that. I know you can relate to that story in some capacity. But that's what it is. I'm grateful for that because it keeps me in my place in a good way. Did that answer your question in any capacity? Maybe not,
I
but
think I think in some capacity it did. I get it. I get it. Pick three words to describe who you are now.
3 words: dad, husband, entrepreneur.
Pick three words to describe who you were your first year in business.
Manic, unstable, curious.
Hmm. I'm gonna add a bonus question. What has been the number one biggest impact thing that you took on, transformation thing, self improvement thing you took on to deal with your patterns that entrepreneurs have at this level 1, 2, 3, 4?
Say it again
Yeah, that
so
was
I
a
can
vague
clearly
question.
understand it.
All right, so your high level entrepreneurs, you said patterns, they're dealing with bankruptcy, failures,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
depression, 3, high anxiety, 4, childhood trauma of some
Yes.
form or young
Yes.
adult. Um, so if you fit into that category, what
I'm
has
three of the
been
four. I'm three of
your
the
3 of
four.
the 4? Excellent.
Yeah.
So what has been the biggest thing that got you breakthroughs in those 3 areas to rise above them?
Okay. Thank you. That I understand now. Okay. So end of 2018, in my first book, one of the chapters is when you start a business, it takes 2 full years to figure it out. So not 2 months, not a year, not 6 months, two full years. So the end of 2018, it still hadn't been 2 full years yet. And at the end of that year, I'd made more money in 1 year than I'd ever thought possible because I was a journalist. You don't get into that for. And so I made more money in 1 year than I ever thought possible. And I'd never been more miserable in my life. So I'm like, oh, that doesn't, more money, not not happiness. That doesn't make sense. Um, at that time, leaned heavily on my wife, started seeing a therapist. What else? Oh, I talked to a mentor, one of my first mentors, and I was like, well, I don't understand why this doesn't make sense. He's like, well, don't worry about it. Every entrepreneur will go through something, has gone through something like this, but the key is what you actually learn from it. So what I learned is that more money doesn't equal more happiness. So I'm very glad and thankful that I went through that, because that's entrepreneur life. It's the opposite of bankruptcy, but never made me more miserable. So it was an important lesson.
Got it. Thank you for that.
You're
And
welcome.
last question, if you could come back to life after you died, look your family and friends in the eye, and give them only one piece of advice about true success in life, what would you say to them?
Yeah, if you're gonna be a dad, be a dad. That's all I'd say. If you're
Okay.
a dad, be a dad. I mean, it's not hard. If you're a father to someone, be a dad. It's really been interesting. Um, because entrepreneur life, you can do whatever you want pretty much. All these freedoms. And so, like, after school, we live in the suburbs of Chicago. So after school, I'm usually one of the only dads there to pick up the kids. Because my wife, she works many days as a pediatrician. And so I pick up the kids and then we play a lot of football or baseball after school. I can't tell you how many kids I've taught how to throw a football.
Mm,
I've taught so many children how to how to throw football, and I just play football or baseball with the kids and coach their teams and all that stuff. And it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship in terms of the professions of the other dads, but most of them are at work or they're just not around. So if you're going to be a dad, be a dad. That's the only advice I have.
so you've been an interim dad for
Yeah,
other dads'
interim
kids.
dad. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I've taught a whole generation how to play football. I didn't expect that.
Hopefully you taught him well, huh?
I think so. I think I have actually. And also taught them to not make excuses. Cause when I hear complaining I'm like, stop it. Stop it.
Good.
Uh,
Good for you. Homework assignment time. This is where you get to give my audience that's still listening one action step item that they must take this week if they really want to improve their current situation, whether at business or at home.
Great question. Great question. I just posted this the other day. And it's kind of cryptic, but I think you'll understand. It's raise your floor to create an unlimited ceiling. Raise your floor to create an unlimited ceiling. So whatever, I don't even like to use the word charge, but whatever you're charging for your services, double it. Double it. There, you can do that this week. Just double your rates immediately.
And what is that going to do for the
It'll
entrepreneur?
eliminate people that ask, what do you cost or charge? And then it'll attract people that say, what does an investment with you look like?
Now, Startup Nation expect to have fewer people invest in you, but they
Correct.
will do it at double the rate.
And they will start introducing you to more people that also will make the investment. It's the
Yes.
same formula.
That was one of the best moves I made in my business was going higher rate and filtering out the wrong clients
Right.
for
Well,
sure.
you're a litmus test for the people you serve. That's why you just write the check to be in the higher level masterminds. I mean, it's the same formula.
Startup Nation, did you enjoy this episode with Justin? If you did, please go write a 5-star, 4-star, 2-star, just write a review. All right.
1 star.
Give Justin a 1-star. He
Do
obviously
it.
has no emotions towards what you write about him, but go ahead and write an honest review. You could do that at Apple Podcasts. You could do that at Stitcher.com or go to first100k.com, first100k.com. Do that right now with your thumbs while you're listening on your phone, would you? And if we like what you write, we'll give you a live shout out on the show, which I'm about to do for Thomas Nardone, who wrote 5-star review. Great podcast for new and experienced entrepreneurs. This podcast has the most intriguing guest. I agree. Look at Justin, huh? That speak from the heart about their journey in business and getting to their first 100K and beyond. The guests that Joseph picks to interview are undoubtedly people of integrity. I agree. That would be a pattern you would see on this show with our guest. They're coming on, they're speaking from the heart, they're real, they're raw, they're honest, they're not holding any punches, they're admitting their flaws, character defects, as well
A
as
lot
their
of
wins.
defects.
A lot of defects. I bring on, the misfits on this show,
Oh
and
my God. It's too bad my wife wasn't here today because she works part-time now because I'm very thankful. Like the companies have done really well, so she doesn't work full time anymore. If she was here, she would immediately make fun of me on live. By the way, she would just come on
good.
and be like, "Yeah, oh," and I'm very thankful. So there are things like a child can do, like hold a pencil right and tie their shoe. I can't. Like it's almost impossible for me to do it. So I have so many character defects. I think that's great, but at one or two things, I know that you know I have this certain ability to do it. But no,
Listen,
most things too.
I missed out on learning a lot of life skills, okay? So it's just what's so. All right. We've been speaking with Justin Breen. Justin, where does Startup Nation go to find out more about you, connect with you, pick up your book? What do you got for them?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the book's called Epic Life. I'm very grateful for how well it's doing, and it really is helping people. I mean, it really is, and so that's where anywhere in the world, Epic Life, and then you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. On the website prepicllc.com, there is a mindset scorecard survey, and takes 5 minutes. People like taking it because it's only 5 minutes, and then people actually qualify or disqualify themselves with their own mindset. That's been an interesting thing to see what happens with that.
All right, Startup Nation, that's brepicllc.com. You'll see it in the show notes. Justin Breen, thank you for being on your first 100K. I enjoyed my time with you. I hope you did as well. I wish you God's love, peace, and joy in your life, sir.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And the only proof that I need of God is that someone like my wife married someone like me. So there's definitely a God out there.
There you go. Miracles do happen today, huh?
Yes, they do.